We're here today to talk to my good friend Sam at Cross Country Mortgage because stuff is happening out there that's kind of crazy. And so I wanted to bring in an expert to actually talk about what's going on. You know, everybody knows the Fed raised rates. What does that mean? I'm hearing conflicting stories from people saying that either, interest rates are going to skyrocket, or, I had another guy say it totally doesn't matter and it doesn't, we all know that it's not directly affecting mortgage rates, but eventually it will. So, Sam, what do you think? What's your take on this?
My take, yeah. Justin, correct. The Fed's raising their Fed fund rate yesterday does not directly affect my long-term interest rates. What that price hike affects is your home equity lines of credit, your lines of credit, your credit cards, yep. Anything tied to the prime rate.
Like auto loans.
Auto
yep.
loans. So long-term rates, my rates are affected more by the 10-year treasury and then mortgage-backed securities that are sold in the secondary market. So while there's not a direct correlation to the Fed raising rates, here's the connection. The Federal Reserve is behind trying to gain control over inflation.
Right.
So inflation's out of control, which is driving up the 10-year treasury, which affects my long-term rates. Now, when they raised their rate 0.75% yesterday, my markets actually really loved it. It was a really great day because they felt like the Fed was finally taking steps to gain control of inflation. Cool. We're a little bit worse than yesterday, but it's still not a really bad day overall. So what you really look at when it comes to the Feds is what are they doing with their balance sheets, because they also buy 10-year treasury and mortgage-backed securities, and what is their plan for the future of those balance sheets. So that's really what we're looking at along with the inflation.
Okay, cool. So to the average person, you would say, no, they don't affect the mortgages, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate.
Yeah, the easy answer is it's not a direct correlation to rates.
Okay.
Rates are going up overall because of inflation.
So that's more of an inflation issue. Or they didn't want to sell because they didn't have anywhere to go. So now that we had an inventory issue. So because of the inventory issue, it seemed like that caused a little bit of inflation too, because we had a lot of demand and no supply. So prices went up like crazy. And everybody's asking me like, oh, what's going to happen to prices? And prices, basically, it's supply and demand. So the good thing about interest rates going up, the only good thing I can think of, is that now people are a little bit more cautious on what they're going to lend, what they're going to borrow to buy a house.
Right.
So it's made people kind of take a step back and go, okay, well, maybe we should renovate or, do a refi or something like that. But then that market kind of tanked too because interest rates went up.
So I think it is a good thing that rates went up when it comes to the supply and demand issue.
Right.
I totally agree with you.
Right.
We can't maintain 20% year-over-year appreciation.
Crazy.
That was the latest reading in April, was 20% year-over-year.
Yep. Is that national or Colorado?
That was the mountain region. So
okay.
Wyoming, Montana, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
I think Utah and Arizona are in there.
Because I know like Breckenridge and Keystone are like 50% appreciation.
Yeah, well,
it's been nuts up there.
Yeah.
Okay. And Winter Park and all those mountain towns.
Yeah, I know of a few people that bought up there.
Yeah. They did really well if they bought 3 years
correct,
ago.
Correct.
Right on. Okay.
So we need the appreciation rate to slow down.
Yes.
So obviously, someone that was looking to buy at $600,000 at a 4% rate is now $500,000 on a 6% rate, or if not a little bit less, or they may still qualify. They just don't want those payments. Okay. So that's going to stop them from either looking at a $600,000 house or stop them from offering over. So as you know, if someone is pre-approved to 600, the last 6 months they have to start at 550 on a home price because they have to offer over asking. So that's going away in certain price points. So we've already actually, as you can attest to, we've already seen a shift, a pullback,
yep.
A slowdown, if you will, in the housing market. Probably third week of May, if I look at my spreadsheets. However, a slowdown in the housing market does not mean prices are going to drop.
Right.
Overall. Now, yes, per weekend, sellers that were over aggressive or greedy, the realtors that don't do their job properly, overpriced house, freak out, make an emotional decision. Monday morning, they drop it $30,000.
Right.
Overall, though, even if we have a 60% reduction, which is a ginormous number, right? So 60%
Reduction in what?
in the appreciation rate,
Okay.
60% pullback.
So instead of 20%.
So 20%,
maybe
that's
like
8%. 12% is 60%. I know I'm throwing out a lot of percentages.
Right on.
But if it slows down dramatically from 20% appreciation to 5% appreciation, let's say it's a huge.
Right.
That does not mean houses are declining. It means that the appreciation rate is slowing down.
Yep.
You're still getting 5% on your money year over year.
Right.
Now, if you watch the media and you watch news, turn off the TV. Because what you're going to hear is that the sky is falling, we're in a housing bubble, woe is us, it's all going to collapse.
Right. What I always tell my clients is, imagine, I'm a little bit of a speeder behind the wheel. So imagine you're on the highway and it's 75. Well, I was in Utah and it was 80. It was awesome.
Utah's great.
So I was going 85, we'll say, and then holy crap, we hit construction. So then it's like, oh, everybody's got to slow down to 45. So I was like, oh man, it feels like we're crawling. It feels like we could literally walk faster than this. Well, I think what I'm telling my clients is that's exactly what's happening.
It's a great example.
Because we're not going backwards, we're still going forwards, just not as fast.
Right.
So go ahead.
Exactly. No, that's a perfect example. The average, there's lots of people out there, lots of entities that say they're the experts, and they all have their different estimates on what number we're gonna slow down to. The average I saw a chart this morning, there's like 7 of them that this graph incorporated. The average was 8.5%. So if they're all right, we're gonna slow down to an 8.5% year-over-year appreciation for 2022.
And that's still not bad.
8% on your money?
That's pretty good.
On
It's
a
better than the
500,
bank. You do a savings account, it's like 0.02%.
Yeah,
something
it's
crazy.
ridiculous.
Good.
There's still opportunities for buyers because and we can get into recession, but
Well, I've got a really good idea for that.
okay.
So I was at something, and somebody was some lender that I know that wasn't you. Not that I would use them, but they were talking about, if you remember back to 07 and 08 when everything went nuts and everything the sky did fall then because we had way more houses on the market than we do now.
Right.
That's what's going to keep this from happening again. But the creative solution that lenders came up with was the ARM. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do an ARM because at the end of, if you do a 10-year ARM, for example, your rate, it stays that low rate for like 10 years.
It's locked in for 10 years.
And then it immediately gets adjusted to the prime plus whatever. So it goes up because obviously that's going to be higher than
Doesn't always
0.9.
go up though. I can give you a good story.
Okay. But the point here is that I think that if interest rates get out of control and they continue to go up and stuff like that happens, as we've seen with them being that low, the government intervened, right? The Fed intervened.
Yes.
So if they continue to go up, they have different strategies for that, and that's how we ended up at like a 2% or 3% in the last couple of years. I think that's going to happen somewhat again if things get too out of control. So I've been telling people, I haven't told a whole lot of people yet, but
Well, you're about to.
Yeah, I know. You might want to look into an ARM because, if you have that rate for 10 years, sometime in the next 10 years, the rate will probably be lower than what it is today, is my theory.
You're half right.
Okay.
Because
half right. It's better than half wrong.
Because they're going to refinance in 2 years.
Right. A lot of people refinance. Because
the feds are going to overreact with the interest rate hike. So yesterday they raised it 0.75%.
Right.
In the Fed meetings, what all the Fed governors do is they give their opinion on where they think that rate, which is now about 1 3/4, they say in writing where they think that rate should be. Most of them think by the end of this year it should be at 3 3/4.
Wow.
Or 3.5. That is 1.5 or 1.5% higher than we are now. That means there's a lot more rate hikes coming. What that's going to do, and the only way you rein in inflation is you create recession. We're out of control. You got to pull it back.
Yep.
So I think we're going to start to feel the pullback in December.
Oh.
So
okay.
I looked up ARMs this morning.
Okay.
They're about the same.
Almost like you knew I was going to say.
Almost. No, it's becoming a popular topic.
Yep.
They're not priced like they used to be. So in 04, 05, when I was writing those loans, they were a lot cheaper than 30-year fixed.
Right.
So everyone's like, yeah, I'll take that.
Made them appealing.
I get my dad one, a 5-1 arm, so it's fixed for 5 years.
Yep.
It adjusted in 2011. His rate was dropping ever since that point for the next 7 years because he lucked out because the market was doing this.
It kept free fall.
Dumb luck, if you know my dad. Well. So right now, ARMs are pricing out the same as a 30-year fixed. So if you want an ARM, you're looking at about 6% with one discount point.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So even the
not
ARMs
quite
are higher.
attractive yet.
No, because the 30-year fixed with 1 point, you're also at a 6%.
Got it.
So it's almost the same.
Okay.
The reason why I'm bringing all this up is in a recession, typically rates go down. So everyone that's bought this year, in the first half of the year, and they're at 5.5%, 5%, 6%, in a year from now, they're going to be calling you wanting to refinance.
Right on.
Because the rates are going to start dropping slowly. They always go down slower than they go up.
Well, yeah, of course.
By the end of the year. So I think the recession starts end of the year, could be a couple years.
Okay.
Till they try, if they don't bundle it up, which the feds always do. So you can get an ARM, just don't pay a lot of money for it, knowing that
not upfront money.
no discount points, no points up front.
Okay.
Additional closing costs is what points are.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend doing it because you're going to want to refinance in 18 months anyways. Because you don't want to refinance in December where they start dropping. You want to give it time to keep getting lower.
Yeah.
So in a year, that's why I say a year to 18 months.
Timing the market.
Timing the market.
And I've got some good advice for that. I was listening to this Ninja podcast the other day, and it's a whole sales thing. But Larry Kendall is the owner of the group, or the owner of the Ninja Selling Method and everything. So he's really well known he's in Fort Collins, Colorado, and he was saying, if you want to time the market, if you want to try to buy high and no, that's the other way around.
Don't want to do that. That's what I do.
Buy low and sell high. Everybody's trying to sell high, but now they're worried that the recession's coming, and maybe they won't get as much for their house. That's true. You might not get 100,000 over an asking. You might get 20,000 over asking or something like that. It's kind of what we were talking about. But if you're gonna live in the house for more than a few years, go ahead and buy, because you can't time the market. Who was it? There was some quote that he had that says, it's always better to, instead of waiting to buy real estate, you should buy real estate and wait.
It's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. There's lots of sayings.
Yeah.
So it's, if you're looking for your forever house, that's another point he had, is if it's your forever house, we call it your toes up house, you're going to die in that house. Then what does it matter what the value is when you die?
Correct.
Like, to be honest with you, unless you're really worried about your kids getting a fortune, when you pass away, but really you're gone. It doesn't matter. So do what makes you happy is the point of that, is because unless you're a flipper, you're trying to buy a house, for low, fix it up and sell it high, that's going to kind of go away for a little while until the recession hits big, and then people that have to sell, put it at bottom dollar and just try to leave out of it. The other thing that we're seeing is that iBuyers are going away.
Good.
Yeah, right. So they don't give you full service for what you're hiring. So I think as the recession kind of comes about, it's going to get a little bit harder to sell a house. What we're seeing now is we're not having to offer more than asking price. Occasionally we will if it's a really beautiful house, but I've gone out with a lot of buyers in the last month, and we've seen price drops. A lot of sellers haven't managed their expectations. So the best one that I've seen lately is I had a buyer that was looking at a house, and we offered about what asking was and sat on the market a week. Well, the seller came back to us and said, no, we want 50 grand more than asking, more than the list price. And we're like, so do we bid against ourselves? Like, what are we doing? You have no other offers. So managing expectations is really important if you're going to sell. It's really not so much looking at what houses have sold for in your area, because now they've become comps and that's what raised the prices, but really what were they listed at? Because now that a lot of that emotion is gone, of the people that were crazy trying to get into a house and take advantage of the low interest rates is gone, our buyer market pool has kind of not dried up completely, but it's really gotten a lot shallower. So
yeah, the demand has slowed down. I think we're also in the summer months.
Yep.
People are on vacation.
A lot of vacations.
I think that they will come back when rates go down. They're just going to miss out because, in my opinion, home values will continue to rise. Again, it's slowing down. It's not like this, it's like this.
Yes.
Values are still
Yes.
going up.
Yep.
So these some of these buyers that want to wait till everything crashes, they're going to miss out on another $40,000-$50,000 in equity over the next year.
Yep.
Maybe 30. Yeah. So
It's a hard pill to swallow.
it's a hard pill to swallow. That's why I've been telling everybody, if you can afford the payments, get in now, even if it's at 6%. Which, by the way, if our parents bought their first house at 6%, if someone said we can give you a rate of 6%, but we need your firstborn, they may have given us up.
Right, because I think they were looking at like 18%.
They're ridiculous.
So
Ridiculous.
6% is fantastic.
I think my parents' first house was 12, and that was in 87. My in-laws were like at 18 and 82. Like, it's just 6% is fantastic.
The other cool thing is, if maybe you're, it makes you sick to your stomach to know that you could have got 3% 2 years ago. Well, that ship has sailed, but it doesn't mean it's gone forever. It may come back. You never know.
It might, yeah.
And so that would give you an opportunity to refinance
Correct.
and cash out a little bit, and then do those projects and have a lower payment
Right.
and everything. So
Exactly right.
you have an opportunity no matter where you go
Exactly.
or what time. So just go for it.
Right.
Just Nike, just do it.
Yeah, no, typically in a recession, home price, interest rates drop, and typically in a recession, home values continue to rise.
Yeah, and especially here in Colorado, we're kind of insulated from the rest of the country, if you will. Like I have family in Chicago and some people in Phoenix, and their market took a lot longer to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Vegas, and so Colorado has been really nice because we're always been a destination state. So a lot of people want to live here. I'm about to hit my 20-year anniversary of moving to Colorado.
That's like being a native.
I love it.
I think you're considered a native
I think more of my life at some point, maybe in 2 years, more of my life will have been in Colorado than Illinois and Minnesota, where I'm from. So yeah, I would count myself as a native too.
I think you
hopefully
should.
that. And I like the Avs. Go Avs. So.